you did it. What an incredible evening. What an incredible room. What amazing people. Wow. Okay. There's so much to celebrate, so much to be proud of. And I just want to start my comments by saying thank you to everyone in this room. I was out with some of the students and the young leaders, talking with them about something most of us in this room know, which is we are all leaders if we choose to be. And leadership starts at every phase of life. And so it's a night for us to be inspired. It's a night for us to be thankful that we can all be together under one roof at the same time, reminding each other of the importance of the work we do. So thank you, everyone here, because we all know, and I know you know, the work you do supporting Equality California is the work of helping people who you'll probably never meet, people who will probably never know your name, and people who will forever be benefited because of the generosity of your time and your support and your leadership. So let's hear it for everyone in the room. And again, Rick Zabur, I thank you, I thank you. We have been long-standing friends. In San Francisco, we were fighting the Night Initiative together. We have been fighting for many years together. I'm always proud to stand by your side, shoulder to shoulder. So, 52 days from the election, that's where we are today. 52 short and long days, right? Here's how I've been thinking about where we are right now. So for most of us, at some point in our personal lives, we've probably had that occasion where we looked in a mirror with furrowed brow and asked the question, who are we? I think this is that moment in time for our country. A moment in time, a historic moment in time, where we are looking in a mirror and collectively asking that question, who are we as a country? And I do believe, friends, that the answer is a good one. I do believe, from the bottom of my heart, that the answer to that question is that we are a great country. We are a great country. And part of what makes us great are our ideals. The ideals we outlined in that document in 1776, that we are all and should be treated as equals. Part of what makes us great as a country is we also know that in the founding and the history of our country, we are great because we know that to love our country means to always fight for our ideals. And I believe this election cycle is a moment in time that is challenging us more than ever before to fight for our ideals. To fight when we see that folks would challenge some of the basic notions of what makes us a great democracy. People who are challenging some of our deepest held principles and beliefs. Suggesting, for example, that someone cannot enter our country because of the God they worship. Suggesting, for example, that an individual cannot serve as a judge in a court of law in our country because his parents were born in Mexico. Suggesting that an opponent who disagrees with them should be shot. These are not reflective of who we are and our ideals as a country, and now is the time to fight for our ideals. And so in this context then, let's also talk about what it means to be Californians. So I confess with a bit of bravado, I am a proud daughter of California. And I believe so goes California, goes the nation. I believe in that old adage. We know it to be true, Equality California. We know it to be true. We know that we have been leading the way on so many issues. And we have always done it in the context of understanding the tools that allow us to be most effective in fighting for equality, for fairness, for justice. We know one of the best tools we have is coalition building. Bringing folks together in a room who seemingly have nothing in common but have everything in common. We have done that in so many ways, on so many levels. And one of the issues that I know we are talking about tonight then is how we will build coalitions in addition to the work we're going to do together around the need for criminal justice reform, in addition to the work we're going to do together around the need for comprehensive immigration reform, in doing the work we need to do together in fighting for equality for all people, including anybody who wants to use whatever bathroom they want to use in North Carolina. And we are doing it in terms of what we know we must do to reject a false choice that suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. Gun safety laws. So I want to talk just a moment about that as a proud Californian and as your Attorney General and the top cop of the biggest state in this country. So we have seen extraordinary challenges, and again, this election cycle is bringing them. And one of them is on this issue of what it means to be reasonable in terms of gun safety laws. So we've been leading the way in California. We have assault weapons bans. We have said there should be background checks. So let's talk about that for a moment in terms of what we have done here and what we know we can then do across the country. Guns, background checks. So I think it's just pretty reasonable to believe that we might want to know if someone has been convicted of a violent felony before we let them purchase a lethal weapon. Just seems kind of reasonable. Seems kind of reasonable to say we just might want to know if someone has been found by a court to be mentally unstable to the point that they are a danger to themselves or others. We might want to know before we let them buy a lethal weapon. This is about reasonable gun safety laws. Let's put it in another context. Assault weapons. As a prosecutor, I have seen assault weapons kill babies and police officers. I have friends who like to go hunting, who actually love to go hunting. If you need an assault weapon to go hunting, you need to go back to hunting school. So we know what reasonable approaches look like because we're doing it here in California. And it seems because then it is so obviously reasonable, it should be a no-brainer that it would take on in the rest of the country. But we know that's not the case. We know the challenge in this fight is a very serious challenge in terms of what is on the table and what is at stake. And I'm going to talk about 4 incidents briefly to make that point. There was an incident, a tragic incident, where a seated member of the United States Congress, acting in her official capacity as a member of the United States Congress, was shot in the head. Her name is Gabby Giffords. And the people who work with her every day, who see her every day, who break bread with her, who talk about their families and their weekends, they don't act. You would think out of loyalty they would have done something. They don't act. And then let's be clear. She wasn't on a beach in Malibu. She was acting in her official capacity as a member of Congress. You would think out of sheer self-interest they would have done something. And they don't act. Then fast forward to Sandy Hook. 6 and 7-year-old babies, 20 6 and 7-year-old babies are slaughtered, and they don't act. In fact, I'm going to say something that's going to sound harsh. What I think should have happened there, somebody should have said, all you members on the House side, on the Senate side, you go in chambers, we're going to lock the door behind you, and we're going to pull out the autopsy photographs of those babies. And you need to look at those photographs, and then you vote your conscience. And I know that sounds harsh. But when I was in a courtroom prosecuting homicide cases, I'd ask the judge every time, Your Honor, let the jury see the autopsy photograph, because it's probative of a number of relevant issues, including the nature of that tool that was used in terms of the violence it causes to the human body. But they didn't act. Then we go to our backyard, San Bernardino. Law enforcement who was there, they called me and said, please come down and survey the scene. And I did, and I traveled to San Bernardino the day after that tragedy, and it was horrific. It was horrible. And then let's go to Orlando. Innocent people who were just enjoying an evening together were slaughtered. 49 killed, 53 injured, and there's still been no action. The challenge is great on this issue, but I know together we are prepared to fight on every level for all of our ideals. But we got a big fight in front of us. We have a big fight in front of us. And so this election cycle is high stakes, guys. High stakes. There is so much on the line. And I know that we're prepared and up for the challenge. And I'll close by saying this, and I repeat it so many times, but I'm going to repeat it again because I think this moment in time requires us to remember. I'll paraphrase, but an admonition years ago from Coretta Scott King, who famously said, the fight for civil rights, and you can read the fight for justice, the fight for equality, the fight for civil rights must be fought and won with each generation. And I think when she said that, she had 2 points in mind. One was to remind us that it is the very nature of the fight for civil rights, for justice, for equality, that whatever gains we make, they will not be permanent. It's the very nature of it. So we must be vigilant. And I think the second point then in that admonition is, therefore, do not be dispirited. Do not be overwhelmed. Do not throw up our hands when it is time to roll up our sleeves. That's where we are, Equality California. So let's fight like we know how to do. We will win this. But it is going to take every one of us, and it is going to take each one of us, and it's going to take us being together as one big family of proud, proud people who know that we have a great country, but it is time to fight for our ideals. Thank you very much.